Welcome to the Two Titans and a Hunter, Destiny 2 podcast, a show dedicated to bringing you the latest intel, the mightiest news, and the boldest opinions from the farthest reaches of the Sol system. Whether you're a bright-eyed new Guardian, fresh from the Cosmodrome, or a battle-hardened veteran of the Red War, this is your Destiny destination. We'll arm you with tips, tricks, and tower-worthy tools to help you triumph, thrive, and revel in the glory of the fight. So without further ado, let's get on with the show.
Hello and welcome to the show this week. I am Night Demon, your British host, and I'm joined by Peroty, your American host. We don't have an Australian host or another Yorkshire host at the moment because they didn't want to join us this week. They didn't put their hat in the ring and say, let me join you. They inquired about coming and joining us, but they didn't want to come and join us this week. So you've just got us two again.
Just the two of us.
Yeah.
In honor of Crimson Doubles, which they're going to give us loot from, but not actually the game mode for.
Yeah. Just don't bring it back. Just you can have some of the cosmetics because we don't know what else to do with them. We throw them in the Eververse for other events that you may or may not see. I guess that's what's happened before. I've seen a few like Crimson Days things. Maybe it'd be the two speeders that you can kind of put side by side that create a heart.
Ooh, maybe.
Because
Yeah,
they've been missing for quite a while.
Yeah, Crimson Doubles really has a feel of, well, we found these boxes at the back of the warehouse of Crimson Doubles gear, so we should do something with those. And yes, they're all digital boxes, but that's kind of how it feels. Going, hey, we found this crate of limited merch that we didn't give away at the time. Here you go. Let's throw it into the Rite of the Nine stuff that's coming, building up to the edge.
I mean, if you're confused about why we're talking about Crimson Day stuff, it's Rite the Nine is actually adding some of these emotes and rewards from Crimson Days into the Rite of Nine. Is it next week, I believe? Or the week after? I think it might be the week after. Next week, it's extra exotics for players from the Emissary. So if you're a new player and you're missing some exotics, the Emissary is going to have some exotic weapons to kind of round out your arsenal. But then the week after, July 1st, I believe, we're going to get the nonary engrams, and you can use 350 nonary manifolds at the Emissary and up to 20 during the Rite of Nine. So you can buy up to 20, but you can also get others to drop. And I think that is later on the 8th, I believe, for that last week. Players will be awarded with one additional nonary engram each day for just signing in. And then from that, you will get hollow chips and other things, like they say, a blast from the past, like Crimson Day emotes. So maybe not the sparrows that have the two hearts that you can join if you ride along. Or maybe they will. Who knows? Because they just mentioned emotes.
Something to keep you logging in every day. Yeah. But yeah. Starting July 1st, those become, the nonary engrams become available that you could buy. And then, starting July 8th, basically for that final week leading up to the Edge of Fate, log in every day, go visit the Emissary, you'll get a free nonary engram to be turned into something. Maybe something you want, maybe you don't. But hey, it's free things they're handing out. So
yeah,
log in or not, I won't tell you what to do, but it's free.
It does say for the last 2 weeks, from July 1st to the 15th, players can earn nonary engrams. So you can earn more, I guess. You can buy up to 20, and then you get an additional one starting that last week, July 8th, for just logging in each day. So hopefully there's some things in there that you don't have that you can get, that you can kind of round out your Eververse collection. That'd be quite nice.
That would be nice. More loot to have, more pretty things. Or you're going, I've done what I'm going to do, and I'm just waiting for the Edge of Fate, in which case, do that. But just remember to buy the Edge of Fate before it comes out. Don't let yourself be sitting there on day one going, so I meant to buy this expansion, but haven't actually done it yet. Not to name any names as I look at myself. But you need to buy it at some point so you can then play it. Or you'll be sad because you won't be.
Well, they got me with the Darth Vader and the General Grievous and the Kylo Ren, and I was like, you've got my money. Here's my money. You didn't even need to tell me that there's an expansion that's going to be sort of Star Wars. You just have the money for the skins now.
Mm-hmm.
But then the only problem is when you play with blue, and you're a stormtrooper and he's dressed up as Darth Vader, he thinks he's in charge. So,
Sounds like it's time to alter the deal.
Yeah, just be careful who you play with, because they may pull rank on you and go, well, I'm Darth and you're just a stormtrooper. So, but then would Kylo Ren outrank Darth Vader? Because he becomes the supreme leader, doesn't he? After he, anyway. That's all Star Wars stuff. Let's not get into that.
Now, is that using additive or multiplicative math to figure out those rankings? Because I feel like I've been looking at those two numbers and different numbers all week. I was told there would be no maths. See, I'm okay with playing my game with a spreadsheet, but now you're telling me there's math involved. That's where I draw the line. I just want to hurt. I just want to hit the mans and do damage and then kill them and move on. I don't want to figure out math. Well, just tell me what to put on. Tell me how to hit things or shoot things, and then I win. Right?
Well, you have to wait for the Edge of Fate for that, to be told what to put on, and somebody else to be the brainiac of the group. But I understand where you're coming from, and I thought I would be really clever this week because we've got Iron Banner up, and because Iron Banner you can grab some armor and you can put your Ghost mod on and go, hey Lord Saladin, give me like armor in a high stat of intellect or mobility, which is what we were talking about the other week for failsafe.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I'll do the same with him, because I've got like 30 engrams, and there's no point in me throwing those into those weapons, because those weapons are not going to be redundant, but I've already got the weapon rolls that I want from Iron Banner for those weapons. I've already done like the 2 reward tracks, so I've got up to the point of resetting the rank to get the shader and the emblem, and I've gilded my title. So that's all kind of done. So I've got all these engrams that are just sitting there that I could just shard and get like the enhancement cores from. So I was like, okay, if I give you some of these engrams, can we get some armor going? And I did it, and I was like, oh, this is really good. It's going to be a high stat in intellect or mobility, whichever one I was kind of rolling for. 53, 52, 55. I got 166, but it wasn't in the rolls that I actually asked for. And I was like, I'm sure I've got this. I went back and checked my Ghost mod. I'm like, dude, you told us at some point that Iron Banner would be high rolled armor, but just like 1 in a billion isn't worth it, to be honest. I could understand maybe if it was in the low 60s for like some of the other things that we like. You play like the episode stuff and it gives you low 60s and you're like, oh, I wish I could get high 60s, and sometimes you do get high 60 to drop. Or if it's on the reward track, some of those are like 66, 67. You're like, that's good, but not in the kind of rolls that I want it. So I'm like, and I tried it a couple of times and I was like, no, this just isn't working for me.
Yeah, I've played a good amount of Iron Banner this week. I finally got my 18 games done on the Warlock and played a couple matches of competitive, so I could get my terrible roll of the Redrick's S-Talk, which I've decided my purpose here is to play to get those terrible rolls, to get them out of the loot pool, so
for
other people
else
can get the good rolls they're looking for. See, some of us have to be the trash collectors and say, yep, that is also. I mean, like, none of them are absolute, like, I would like you to be airborne and crouching at the same time style rolls, but they're not too far from that in some cases. So, see, I'm doing my part just to clear out the loot pool for people getting good rolls of that weapon. And and I played a bunch of Iron Banner to mixed success. Yeah. Still, nobody understands how Gambit works, so nobody will bank modes. People will go and slay out and get their 50, 60 kills and, running the lobbies and in Iron Banner, and will still lose by 50 points because not once will they pick up a single crest or put it anywhere near the bank. And it's just like, it's fine to go and win, but could you help the team actually get a win in the process?
No, don't be silly.
So, yeah. So, I mean,
played a bunch of that,
played a bunch of Control, went back and forth, because at least Control, people will stand on or near zones, or they can partially capture them and I can finish them off and, do my part.
I mean, to be honest, I haven't touched Iron Banner for the last 2 Iron Banners. And I know that sounds crazy from me, who loves Iron Banner.
It does sound crazy. Who are you?
I know, but I've got to the point of like, I went and threw like the engrams last time at Lord Saladin and went, just give me the new weapon and give me the role that, is the best role. And I got it the first one. But I mean, I would have kind of continued throwing engrams at him because I had a whole stack of them to get different roles of it. But then this Iron Banner rolls around, and I'm like, I don't even want to see if I can get even a better roll of that weapon, because when the Edge of Fate comes around, am I even going to be using that weapon? I mean, I do appreciate Bungie kind of trying to refresh loot pools for like the Nightfall's Gambit and Iron Banner and Trials, like throwing extra weapons in there, kind of that latter half of the episode. But is it worth it? Because yeah, you can still use those weapons, but you've told us there's going to be a whole new tier system.
Yeah, everything kind of has the Rite of the Nine problem right now. It's going, well, this is good and this is fun and this could be a really good role on this. But how much do I really care looking down the barrel of, in 3 weeks, this is all going to get reworked anyway? And yeah, you know, people have made videos talked about, well, don't delete everything. Some of this might be good, some might be keeping, but I'm going, even the best weapons today, like unless it's, you know, there will be some, obviously, you know, we're all going to keep because it is our weapon we've used forever, especially if you didn't delete it the first go around when they were sunsetting things. You're going to keep that weapon forever, even if it's just for sentimental value, as we've been seeing in people's vault cleaning videos this week. I don't know if you've seen any of the you know, either Fallout's terrible vault or the other vault cleanings folks have been doing. I think Above went and just deleted his entire vault. Just delete. I think he gave himself like, I think his community, you know, gave. I'm sure he did some sort of, you know, polar event or something. I think he got like 3 saves or 4 saves or something. So I think there's like, you know, he's got a handful of things left, but just deleted everything else and just to start fresh. I know some folks have just said, I'm just gonna, weapon wise at least, I'm just gonna start fresh. Just delete a whole bunch of stuff I'm holding on to, and just saying let's go forward. So it's like, yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, day 1, week 1, maybe month 1. Yes, you're going to be playing with all the stuff you still have that you've worked hard for and you grinded for, and it's good to still be competitive and still be good to a degree. But it's like, but how long is that going to last? I mean, looking back at the Armor 1 to Armor 2.0 transition, yeah, a lot of people kept Armor 1.0 armor because it was really good rolls or had really good spikes or it was something, you know, particular or unique. It's like, but how long did that armor really stick around? How long were you really using it, especially with all of the extras and bonuses? You know, not even, because obviously everyone says, oh, well, the tier 5 is going to be so much better. But not even with that, but just with the armor set bonuses and the extra damage resistance and all the other new stuff you're going to be able to build into in these. You know, yeah, you're going to go into day 1, week 1 with those loadouts you've used forever, but for how long? You know?
Yeah. I mean, that Armor 1.0 was still quite good until they decided to kind of sneakily deprecate the armor mods. And then it was like, well, I can't even use the armor mods that you said were still going to be around to be able to be used. And then they didn't say anything about it. It was really confusing. So beforehand, when we had the beginnings of Destiny 2, you had your armor, and then you had mods that you could put into your armor that would give you kind of stat boosts in whatever you kind of wanted. So if you had, like, for example, I've got one at the moment I'm looking at, mobility of 20, resilience of 10, nothing in recovery, 10 discipline, 5 intellect, and 5 strength. So 50 overall. But I could put a mod in there that would give me an extra, I think it was 5 or 10 in whatever I kind of wanted. And that's how we kind of built. And you could select from either having, there was 2 extra perks that you could select from, either having increased resilience or recovery on my one that I'm looking at the moment. So you could kind of mix and match your armor pieces and kind of tune it to how you wanted to. You could play around with it. So we got to that kind of grey area where they just decided they were going to deprecate it on the quiet, not say anything, because obviously nobody uses Armor 1.0 apart from special people like me.
Do you have Armor 1.0 in builds you've used in the last, say, year?
No.
Okay.
But that's because they deprecated the armor mods.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it wouldn't have surprised me if you were just like, no, I've got this one build and it's super specific, and I got this armor piece that just, you know, you couldn't, you know, can't get now or has particular roles or something. It wouldn't have entirely shocked me if you were like, nope, there's one that I still have that is there in dim just in case. But yeah,
I still have a hunter armor set
that they just like quietly deleted or fizzled, whatever.
I mean, I still have a hunter armor set with the Gemini Jesters, and again, I can select between mobility and resilience to boost that. So I think at the moment I've got it in resilience. But then the thing, they've also deprecated the functional perks on there. So I had scout rifle dexterity or bomber or dynamo that I could select from for those three, and then hand cannon, scavenger, and primary ammo finder. I mean, I understand about deprecating the primary ammo finder because you didn't need that anymore.
Yeah.
But
Don't
and
need to
then
find
adding
it,
my
but
extra armor, but yeah, it's like why have we deprecated all of that and not actually said anything?
yeah, yeah, because I remember the time you mentioning it, and I mean, maybe they did. My memory is not superb, but I still don't feel like I ever saw where they were like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we've done this." Because yeah, a bunch of people had mentioned it and brought it up, going, "Hey, these are gone now," and just no mention, no acknowledgement, going, "Yeah, no, we've just gotten rid of those. Don't worry about it."
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sort of doing the same thing. Like I've played a bunch of it just sort of because I enjoy it, and
yeah.
I'm just enjoying the PvP aspect of it right now. And I talked to Frosty last night for the first time in like 1,000 years. I was like, "Oh, hello!" So sat down with her, played some Iron Banner. But like I think I got one decent roll of the Tanisha's mastery, but everything else I didn't really look at. I mean, none of the armor I got was even worth mentioning. Yeah, it was all 50s level stuff, but none of the other weapons I really even considered keeping. I'm just like, yeah, like you're fine, but I've got one of you, and you're just gonna be outclassed next season.
Maybe it
So
was too much to kind of ask, like, or too much of ask of the development team to say, right, if people are playing Iron Banner, then maybe that weapon that we kind of only gave them like 3 weeks ago that's new can be converted into the new system. I don't get that. I don't understand why those weapons that they brought in to kind of refresh the loot pools, and there was only like about 3 weapons, wasn't it? Just that those weapons, along with the Rite of 9 weapons, are converted into the new system, because that would give people a little bit more of a kind of urgency or just incentive to go and play in the game modes that those weapons are in to see if they can get a good roll that would then take them into the Rite of the Nine. Not sorry, Rite of the Nine, into the Edge of Fate. Because, like you said, yeah, it's the Edge of Fate problem. Do you play the Edge of Fate or do you do other stuff? I mean, I've been doing
or
other
the nine, but
stuff.
yeah.
Sorry, yeah, Rite of the Nine.
But yeah. I'm sort of with you. It would have been nice, because we've in the past we've had them, drop the wolves in early before the House of Wolves expansion, and we've had these little peaks and teases.
Yeah.
We were starting to see the dread roaming around before they were sort of officially in the game. Yeah, it'd be nice to have. Hey, I mean, this is a 1 week event. It's Iron Banner, so it's not like it's trials, absolute god level weapons. It would have been nice to say, here's a taste of the new weapon system going forward. Hey, we've brought these 3 weapons back. They're going to have the new system in them to give you sort of a taste and feel of what's to come, and that some people can start playing with and experimenting with and sort of understanding. But yeah, it's just sort of I'm still playing the game. I'm really enjoying myself, but it's not like there's a whole lot I'm sitting here going, yeah, I really need to grind through this to get X, Y, or Z, because
Yeah.
in 3 weeks it's. I mean, by very definition, won't be the best thing I can have. So why am I going to work so hard for a couple of weeks? I'm going to do. I'm going to finish my weekly challenges, get my bright dust. I'm going to look beautiful going into this, but
Yeah.
I'm not really worrying about the loot that's dropping from anywhere, really.
No. And I think I'm doing other stuff to finish off kind of challenges and finish off triumphs and seals and things like that, because I'm looking at, I mean, I do want to do Rite of the Nine content, but I'm looking at it, it's like, well,
Yeah.
I can get more stuff next week. And then if I do other stuff next week, there's even more stuff coming the week after. There's
Mm-hmm.
it's no like if I miss out this week, I'm not going to miss out. I'm just missing out on a percentage of rewards and currency, whereas next week it's increased even more, and I'm like, oh well, I can just do this stuff this week to kind of round out
Yeah.
those triumphs, challenges, and seals, which have been
Yeah.
a nightmare.
Oh yeah. What are you struggling through right now?
Well, you joined me yesterday, didn't you, for the trying to do the Kel's Vengeance with
Mm-hmm.
Blue and Noble as well tried to join us, but we kind of came across an error that when you left us in that final room, Noble couldn't join to fill your position because it
no.
just kept giving him centipede errors and he got cabbaged. His
Oh,
ghost would
no.
appear. We couldn't res his ghost. He would then get kicked to orbit and then try and come back. And again, we couldn't res him. We tried dying and kind of restarting the encounter. And as we did that, he would get cabbaged to the point. Then Blue went, "Oh, well, I'll leave and see if I can come back." And then Blue just never returned. So I was just in that room by myself. I'm like,
Oh, no.
this ain't going to go down. I'm not going to be able to solo this.
No.
Skolas has
Not
got me
feeling
beat.
confident now?
No. But it's really
that's
good.
so frustrating.
It's good fun, that kind of Kel's vengeance thing. And Blue said to me, why are we doing this? And I'm like, for bragging rights. But it wasn't until I kind of looked into it, is that you need it for the seal for the not Echoes, Revenant. Yeah. For episode Revenant to complete that, to get the seal, to get the title. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize. I knew because
there was a reason for this. I swear, there was a purpose
there
for
was a
doing
reason.
this.
And I think
Don't
because
ask
it
follow-up
came,
questions.
because it came at the end of Revenant, and it was only in the last couple of weeks, and then suddenly we had Heresy and all the other fantastic stuff. I was like, well, I've moved on to Heresy and kind of saw the shiny lights and went towards those, and like ignored that. And now I realise that I need to kind of get that done. Blue probably obviously doesn't want to get that done. He's just doing it to help me out. But it's like, oh my God. And the amount of things that I've got to do in Court of Blades was ridiculous. I mean, there were challenges for Court of Blades that I didn't realise I needed to do. I've got to use a glaive and a fusion rifle. I've got to get heavy weapon kills, special ammo kills. So I was like, oh my word, this is just going so slow. I was let's go into Court of Blades and just melee everything, even though we're not actually getting any of these bosses killed. So the third person that kept joining us for the match-made Court of Blades, I think we're getting a little bit frustrated. We weren't even getting to the max amount of bosses being killed because I was running around with a glaive. I did use the Otum for my fusion rifle, so because I thought I need something at a distance that can kind of take out blight stuff. So I was using that. I was kind of being a little bit conscious about that, but I was leaving the rest of the mechanics up to Blue while I was just kind of killing all the little enemies and things. And then having to, and I didn't realize for quite some time, and it wasn't until Blue explained it to me, where you come back out of the Court of Blades and you pick up the buffs, and depending on how many runes you've got, you can then pick up those buffs from the statues and then go back in. Before you do that, there's a little podium there that as you drop down into that main area, you can give them your sigil shards, and that will then boost your runes so that you can then put more in at those statues. And I hadn't been aware of that for quite some time. So I was just kind of getting maybe 1 or 2 runes and picking up, boosting the one rune that I could actually use, and then going back through and doing it. And it was progressing, the challenge was progressing so slow. I was like, why is this going so slow? And it wasn't until Blue said, well, if you use your sigil shards, that you've got like 300 that are just sitting there in this kind of podium, boost up your things, then go and pick the one that says 3, that will, progress it even faster. And I mean, reading that on the challenge, or the triumph, I think it is, it says, if higher runes give you more progress, but it doesn't say use your sigil shards at that podium to boost up to the maximum and then go and dump them into the. I'm like, this is a slow process this week. So that's what I'd been doing. Instead of playing Iron Banner, which I'd really wanted to kind of do and enjoy playing, I'm kind of trying to catch up on those little things that just awkward.
Yeah, I have so many things to do in Court of Blades, and I keep thinking one of these weeks, this will be the week I go do it and engage with it and enjoy it, and I just haven't been enjoying it, so I've just kind of forgotten it existed. And now at the point where I'm going, well, I don't have to care much longer. It'll disappear soon.
I think I sort of enjoyed it when it first came around, and I like the fact that if you go into the higher tier version of it, you get the better weapons, the adept weapons to drop.
Yeah.
But then there's no incentive for you to kind of do the match made one, because why would you want to kind of do that if you can get the adept ones? But then it's getting a team that are quite proficient to go into the expert version to get the adept ones. And it's like, sometimes it's a little bit easier to go into the match made one, but you're not getting the rewards that you actually want. You're kind of just ticking a box and just playing just to kind of get that triumph done.
Right. Yeah. It really is basically like, are you here are you here because I'm trying to max out, do the hardest version, max out my difficulty, get the best gear? Or am I just trying to go, get X number of completions or kill this many bosses or whatever? I'm going, well, I could do that the hard way, or I could do that the easy way.
See, I'd like to do both at the same time, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's a little bit impossible to do that. It'd be
Just
nice
give
to
me
say that if they just said you get a chance at maybe doing it in the regular version, you get some of these adepts to drop. That would be nice. Not, oh, it's only in the expert version.
Yeah. You have zero chance of this happening, but maybe one day if you think hard enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. While we're all sort of the page of, hey, trying to get weekly challenges done. I don't know if you've done your Bane Reaper, defeating combatants with Banes, additional progress granted in episode Heresy activities. I
think I have done that. Or maybe I was up to 92. And again, I think I saw a video way back when that said you get more Banes in that initial area of the Court of Blades in the expert version. There's sometimes there can be up to 3, and that will progress your progress really fast. So when I was just soloing the expert version and just doing one boss in there to see if I can get an adept to drop, I would make sure that I take out those, because it's in that just initial area. You run down that passageway and then you see that ogre and the witches and things. That's where there's 2 or 3 of them. And that's what I was kind of doing to progress that. So, but I did see you saw a TikTok or a video that said you can progress it faster.
Yeah, I saw, I think, About Beverages on TikTok talked about, because he had seen the same thing, go to Court of Blades, do the thing. But he said if you go to Nessus and play the Exodus Crash Strike, just not through the Vanguard, but just just pull up Exodus Crash on Nessus. He said basically all of the shanks in there, all those shanks have those stasis shields around them.
Yeah.
He said basically all of those are counting as Bane. So he said, do a run of that and you'll have that, triumph, that challenge about 20% done. He said, it was about 20%, give or take per run. So he's like, run that a couple times, you'll finish it out very quickly.
That is bizarre. So just select it from going to Nessus and just go, right, the basic strike will give me this.
Yeah, just the basic strike, because all those, I guess, all those stasis shields on the shanks count as Banes, which I wouldn't have thought. I would have thought it would have had to be the new Banes or whatever. But no, apparently that works beautifully. So he's like, yeah, I just pull that up, again, 5-6 runs of that, done. So if you've been struggling with that, that's a quick way to get that done.
Nice.
He says as he still hasn't done it. It's on the list. It's on the list.
Talking about kind of getting stuff done and remembering what's out there, I will drop in This Week in Destiny here so that you can find out what's actually happening this upcoming week and all the stuff that's going away. If you're interested, obviously. If not, skip to the next bit where we go, oh, look at that. We just talked about that.
Yeah, look at that pretty thing over there.
This is your weekly rundown of episode Heresy, week 21, starting on June 24th. The new limited time event, Rite of the 9, continues this week, with all dungeons now available to play at any time on any difficulty. And from June 24th into July 8th, one dungeon will have increased currency rewards, and a chance for weapons to drop from enemy kills, as well as increased loot from the final boss chest when completing all encounters in the featured dungeon. This week will be the Spire the Watcher. Also starting this week, the Emissary will be offering a handful of exotics for players looking to round out their exotic weapon arsenal. The Vanguard Onslaught featured map this week will be Vostok, with the Siege Hook Ogre kicking off the boss rotation. The Expert Battlegrounds will start this week's rotation with Conduit. The Dreaming City this week is at a weak curse level, which means Petrovenge can be found in the Strand and has the Broken Courier mission for the next week. The Blind One features Scorn enemies and the Plagues, Sigrus and Varicus. The Ascendant Challenge will be the Forfeit Shrine over in the Gardens of Vasilia. On the Moon, the weekly story mission is Beyond. The Drove Guardian and the Wandering Nightmare, the Fallen Council, are both located in Archer's Line. Nightmare hunts Fogoth, Fear, Crota, Despair, and Fanatic Insanity. The Altars of Sorrow will start this week's rotation with the Nightmare of Tanix and the Apostate Sniper. On Europa this week, Corodis the Dark Priestess will be the Empire Hunt, Eventide Runes will be the Eclipse Zone, and the Exo Challenge will be Survival. Dares of Eternity Expert difficulty rounds are Vex, Cabal, and Crota. The Scatterhorn armor set and the Perfector's armor set will be available in Dares of Eternity with Weapon Set 2. Scathelock, Extraordinary Rendition, Brass Attacks, Threaded Needle, Code Duello, Imperial Needle, Far Future, Honor's Edge, Distant Terminus, Interference 6, Shepherd's Watch, and Annual Skate. The Witch Queen weekly story mission is The Arrival, Altar of Reflection's Choice, and Altar of Reflection's Pact. The Wellspring activity will start the week on attack, with the Kinetic Bow, Feltar Diddle, and Borgon Hive Knight as the boss. The Lightful Weekly mission is First Contact, the Partition mission will be Backdoor, and the Vex incursion will be Zephyr Concourse. In the Pale Heart, the exotic mission Dual Destiny is still available for teams of 2 Guardians, where you can farm the mission to earn as many new prismatic exotic class items as you like. The final Straits Cooperative Focus campaign mission this week will be Descent. The 12 Guardian Matchmade Excision mission is also available next to the race for a weekly pinnacle, with the Grandmaster version granting the Ergo Sum Catalyst and an Ascendant Shard. Also available for a weekly pinnacle is the Salvation's Edge raid, over in the Pale Heart, and new dungeon Sundered Doctrine, which can be found over on the Throne World, with the exotic linear fusion rifle Finality's Ager up for grabs, and a whole suite of new weapons and armour. Just make sure to visit Icor over in the tower to pick up the quest Drowning Labyrinth to enter. The Salvation's Edge raid chant this week is the 3rd encounter and repository called Balanced Diet. The Root of Nightmares raid chant this week is the 2nd encounter Scission called Crossfire. The Kingsfall raid chant this week is the 5th encounter Oryx called Hands Off. The Vault of Glass chant this week is the 1st encounter Confluxes called Wait For It. The Deep Zone Crypt chant this week is the 4th encounter Tanix called The Core 4. And the Garden of Salvation chant this week is the 1st encounter Embrace called To The Top. Featured Pinnacle Raid 1 will be Vow the Disciple over on the Throne World, and featured Pinnacle Raid 2 will be The Last Wish over on the Dreaming City, with all challenges available for all encounters, with the exotic Pulse Rifle Collective Obligation being farmable from the final boss in Vow, and the exotic Fusion Rifle 1000 Voices from The Last Wish. Featured Pinnacle Dungeon 1 will be the Prophecy over in the Legends tab, and featured Pinnacle Dungeon 2 will be the Warlord's Ruin over on the EDC. The exotic mission rotator will be Vox Obscura, with the Dead Messenger exotic grenade launcher being the main reward. The Season of the Risen's weapon set, plus the Tusk Allegiance armor set. The exotic missions, the Whisper and Zero Hour, will also be available in the Legends tab. We have now had all of episode Heresy's challenges over the first 16 weeks of the episode. So, as a reminder, if you complete 108 out of 112, you can get a large pile of Bright Dust to spend at the Eververse store in-game. Lost Sectors, Tuesday Perdition on Europa, Wednesday Veil's Labyrinth on the Cosmodrome, Thursday Exodus Guard 2A on the Cosmodrome, Friday Aphelios Rest on the Dreaming City, Saturday Chamber of Starlight on the Dreaming City, Sunday Hydroponics Delta on Neptune, and Monday Gilded Precept on Neptune. The Grandmaster Nightfalls continue this week with our 21st featured Nightfall, which should see us face off against Unnatha Light Cleanser in the Sarps Battlegrounds Cosmodrome, with the Plug-on Fusion Rifle as the featured adept weapon. The 6v6 playlist will be Control. The 6v6 quick play mode should be Mayhem, Elimination should be in the small team's quick play, and Hardware Mix should also be available. Plus, Trials of Osiris returns at the weekend, with the Tomorrow's Answer rocket launcher as the featured adept weapon. This week should also see bonus Vanguard ranks, and double Nightfall drops available all week long. And as we only have 3 more weeks of this current episode, here's another reminder of what's going away when the Edge of Fate releases on July 15th. Starting with the 10th anniversary Seal and Title, Moments of Triumph 2024 Seal and Title, Act 3 of Heresy's Unknown Antechamber Chess Puzzle and Rewards, Act 2's activity the Court of Blades, Act 1's activity the Nether with its 3 modes, Exploration, Advanced, and Expert. From Act 3 of Revenant, the exotic mission Kel's Fall, where you can earn the Void exotic shotgun Slayer's Fang, and Prison of Elders challenge Kel's Vengeance. Act 2 of Episode Revenant's Tomb of Elders, and Contest of Elders. Act 1 of Episode Revenant's Onslaught Salvation, which has new defences, 3 maps that are not in the Vanguard playlist version, and new enemies to fight. In the Last City on the Helm, Episode Echo's 3 Battleground activities, Delve, Conduit, and Core, with Enigma Protocol and Breach Executable. Episode Echo's exotic mission Encore, where you can earn the Void exotic auto rifle Choir of One, and the Grandmaster Nightfall node, which gives Guardians the opportunity to complete their Conquest Seal for this episode, some of which are now not available. Warden of Nothing on the Dreaming City, Sunless Cell on the Dreadnought, Insight Terminus on Nessus, Psyops Battlegrounds Moon, Lake of Shadows on the EDZ, Scarlet Keep on the Moon, Hypernet Current on Europa, Heist Battlegrounds Mars, and the Sarps Battlegrounds Cosmodrome. To get you prepared for the Edge of Fate, now would be a good time to start hoarding completed vendor bounties that can carry over to the next expansion for XP and artifact progression. Also, don't forget to collect all of your episode Heresy pass items. Any items left over from episode Revenants pass on Bungie.net, plus your reward check items and engrams from Failsafe for episode Echoes, Ido for episode Revenant, and both shaping slabs for episode Heresy. Also, Banshee 44 Gunsmith, Shax, Crucible, Zavala, Vanguard, Drifter, Gambit, Saint 14, Trials, Rahul, Cryptarch, Hawthorne, Clan, and Zer at the weekend before the end of the episode, as they will reset and you will lose all items when the new expansion begins. Don't forget to collect your free 700 Bright Dust from the Eververse store each week up until the Edge of Fate begins, And don't forget to keep an eye on Zer this Friday at Reset to see if he's offering another chance to grab a random rolled exotic class item for 41 strange coins. And that's it for the 21st week of the Final Shape episode Heresy. See, look, we just explained all of that to you. What's happening next week? It was really good, wasn't it?
It was. I hope at this point you've turned in your Iron Banner tokens if you want to, because Lord Saladin, as we talked about last week, is going away for a while. So if you didn't turn them in, you're not going to get your Tenacious Mastery or your Nature Acclaimed Scout Rifle. You're going to get a big box of disappointment. And that's not nearly as fun.
No.
Feeling punchy?
Are you feeling punchy?
It's hard to say because there's a lot of numbers that were thrown at me. It's hard to say if I'm feeling punchy or not. So
maybe less punchy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically with differently punchy because the TLDR seems to be, hey, your Syntheseps will still Synthesep. I mean, good. That's just lead with that headline, and hey, my Syntheseps and my Spirit of Syntheseps are going to continue to do what they should be doing. Great, everything else I can figure out. Glaives, they're again for all 12 people who are loving Glaives, they're going to make those work with things, and everybody will be happier. And that's our show. Join us next week.
I was just going to say, I'm sure you're talking about This Week in Destiny or the 12 for the 19th of June.
I really am, yeah.
It's all about the melee this week. Well, not all about it. There is another developer stream coming up on the 24th of June. So as you're listening to this, or just before you listen to this, no, after this, whichever way round you want to kind of do it. But I'd listen to us first because you need to know it's happening. So at Reset, June 24th, this upcoming Tuesday at 10 a.m. PT, there's going to be a developer live stream, part 1. Ooh. So, yeah, you can get an emblem for just watching 15 minutes with your Bungie ID linked, and it's the Astromancy emblem as a Twitch drop. So make sure that you've linked your Bungie ID to your Twitch, and then you have to click the drop-down box when it flashes up to say you've got some mail, to say, yes, I'd like that, and then that somehow, through the spaghetti code, gets sent to Bungie and said, hey, look, they've earned this because they watched 15 minutes of you say stuff, and you can get an emblem in-game.
And you'll have another beautiful emblem.
You will. So they are ready to share many details about Armor 3.0 and the new ability stat system. So, and some new weapons. So that's what we can expect to see. Not the melee. Maybe the melee's coming in a couple of weeks, or in about a week. Maybe. Who knows?
Maybe that'll be in part 2 or part 3. Yeah, that's the one where I've really been looking at, trying to say, is there a succinct way to explain this? Can we break this down in some way? No.
we could just do what they did. Melee damage is changing in the Edge of Fate. So currently in Destiny 2, most sources of increased damage in Destiny 2 are multiplicative, and I had to kind of Google this because I was like, what is multiplicative? What is additive? What are you kind of saying to me? So at the moment, we have the multiplicative, which is basically bonuses are applied sequentially. So if you have something as a base damage of 100, and then you have 2 items that give you an extra 20% damage, in total, it gives you 144% damage, rather than, like, say, what they're going to move to, which is the additive stacking. And that's where the bonuses are added together rather than multiplied.
I mean, basically, like that's why we're seeing, people one-shotting bosses and these, ridiculous melee-based, things. Basically, it's like Bungie saying you can essentially, stack all these buffs and then get your damage numbers outrageously high. Like it really is you can take this all the way to 11 and just take your damage numbers and put them all the way up and really build into nothing but melee and do just absurd amounts of melee damage.
Yeah.
And they're going, that's nice and fun, but it all comes back to the problem of trying to balance the game, saying, okay, well, if you've done that, yes, you're one-shotting raid bosses and you're having a great time. However, for everybody else who's not doing that, now they're fighting a bullet sponge, because this boss has to be able to tank 6 trillion melee damages over this thing that you've got 18 buffs going on, and they're going, that's hard to balance. So we're gonna maybe change things a little bit. So yes, I mean, you can still get still get good damage and still get these good buffs, but it's going to be a little less. Basically, they're bringing the floor of it up, so all melees will be more effective. Because I don't know if you've tried to punch anyone or anything recently in PvP or elsewhere. Yes, if you really spec into melee, you can make it special. Otherwise, it's like it almost feels like why bother? It just feels very, very weak. So it's just it's bringing all the melee floors up. Basically, the lowest damage comes higher. So melees will just be a little more viable, a little more effective. But they're decreasing the ceiling of it. So the absolute, I've spec'd into and built my entire life around making this build perfect, and I've got 16 buffs going, and I can do 400,000 damage per punch or whatever. They're going to bring those numbers down. So again, we're not trying to balance. Basically, we're not trying to balance around the professional player in the 8-year-old league of sports. Here is what it boils down to.
So the multiplying thing is the thing that kind of makes the melees kind of go really wild, as Peroty said, one-shotting bosses. So that's what they don't want to kind of do. They want to kind of add it. So that it's also going to be easier for you to kind of understand. So if it's on the armor and if it's on a mod or if it's on a weapon and it says this gives you 20% extra damage, rather than it being multiplied onto the damage that you're doing now, you can work it out and say, right, so I've got something that's giving me 20% and 20%, and I've got 100% base damage. That will give me 140 rather than the 144 from the multiplied version of it. So when the Edge of Fate is released on July 15th, the melee damage increase in Destiny 2 will be additive. That means like if you have the 100% base damage and then you have 20% and 20%, it will just be 140. But then you can kind of build into that with kind of all the different buffs and the way your armor kind of works now or going forward in the Edge of Fate. So that's what's actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what they're saying too, is, we're going to have, now that you can take your melee stat up to 200 from 100, if you really want to build into melee, you're still going to be able to build into that melee. It's not like they're just nerfing melee across the board or anything. And they've done a ton of changes, around, the new melee stat introduced with Armor 3.0 increases the damage of the melee abilities when going over 100 by giving you up to a 30% extra damage at that 200 stat. So, they're having to account for this 30% more melee damage you can build into just in the game with the new system. So obviously you can't have that and all these multiplicative damage stackings, or it's just going to get ridiculous. And we're going to have these bullet sponge bosses that takes you an hour to kill if you haven't built into the exact right way to do so.
Yeah, I mean, from reading this and kind of looking at it, is basically that you will still be able to do really good melee damage, but it just probably won't be what you're currently able to kind of do at the moment. But there may be a way of getting there if you really build into it, but maybe not the ludicrous kind of things that we kind of have at the moment. Although I did see Mactic say already he's already going to put his first build for the Edge of Fate is going to be an Arc Hunter with the gauntlets that do all the punching, and I can't remember the name of them.
Yeah, it's a combination blow perk.
Liar's Handshake. So yeah, Mactix is going to do one with the Liar's Handshake. So that has got the cross counter, and using your arc melee ability or being hit by a melee attack will allow you to follow up with an extremely powerful melee counterpunch that will also heal you. So I think he was talking about like doing that with the combination blows is going to be really good, because some of the way that the stacking works is going to be better for some of the classes.
Yeah, it's going to be advantageous because that's something else they're doing is the melee damage is no longer going to scale with your scorch and ignition damage generated by melee attacks. And the logic behind this is basically similar to Jolt. They wanted the Jolt scaling, that they changed a while back to sort of match the scorch and ignition stuff. So we think it's healthier for elemental verbs to have a consistent effect regardless of the source that applied them. So they've opted for more, targeted changes here with an Incinerator Snap on the Warlock and the Consecration Slam on the Titan, remaining powerful options as centerpiece abilities in the melee focused builds, and as potent damage focused tools for other builds. So basically, they're saying when you're building into these melees and these different verbs, we'd like it to be kind of consistent across the board and not just go, well, you should just run the solar one because that one's way better. Or just run the Jolt because that's going to be, 10 times better than every other verb you can do. There's no point in even running other things.
Yeah.
Which is a welcome change from someone who's spent, the last 2 years going, well, you're going to start with consecration. Yeah, we know. You're really going to need the consecration. Yeah, I know. Like, and it's fun. It's great. Like, it's good times. I'm not saying anything bad about consecration or incinerator, snap, or any, insert your favorite ability here. But it would be nice. And I know we're going to have, the one true build, come Edge of Fate. We're going to have, these are the best builds. These are the way to do things. But it would be nice to have at least a little bit of variety, maybe, or at least have things be competitive and be an actual decision, and not just say, well, you really need to start with this, otherwise you're just, not, you're just not as strong a player, period, full stop.
Yeah.
And they're touching glaives for those, glaive enjoyers who just want to go and hit things with sticks.
But that's only because that they're overhauling the melee, that they're kind of revisiting the glaives in the sandbox. Because apparently, in the Edge of Fate, glaive melee is considered unpowered melee ability. Ooh. What does that mean? That means, in short, if your build relies on unpowered melee damage, glaives will be the best way to increase your unpowered melee DPS even further. So, in the Edge of Fate, glaive melee is now considered to be a type of unpowered melee ability, and they now receive melee damage increase at full effect in all cases where the unpowered melee ability would, including the damage increase from Syntheseps, knockout, offensive bulwark, combination blows, spark of feedback, worm god's caress, banner of war, and stylus executioner. So, glaives will now work with my banner of war, an unpowered melee. So I'm now going to have a sword and a glaive equipped. Oh, it's going to be amazing.
Does that make glaives viable?
Probably not, but it might work. Glaive melees now trigger all effects that are triggered by any melee ability, and they will no longer benefit from some weapon damage bonuses, such as Radiant, as it is no longer a weapon damage. So effects that modify the behavior of the basic melee attack, such as Titan Aspect's knockout that changes the basic melee attack from kinetic to art, will not affect the behavior of the glaive melee. And glaive melee damage in PvE has been adjusted to compensate for their increased access to melee damage increased effects. So glaive melee damage against minors and mages has been reduced by 40%, against champions and mini-bosses has been reduced by 28.5%, and against bosses and vehicles has been reduced by 50%. But I don't see that as an issue, because I think where you can now use other things like the offensive bulwark or the combination blows, Syntheseps is still, that's going to work. I think just like if you're just using a basic glaive, that you're going to get those reductions, but then you can still build into that if it's a melee build and still get good damage on the minors, the mages, the champions, and the bosses and the vehicles. So it's all about the build crafting now. That's what it is. It's just like we're moving to this whole new Destiny 3, but we're not calling it Destiny 3. So everything's changing. So this is what's got to change.
Yeah. I mean, truly. I mean, we've been in a world of so long of just, here's your 6 stats. Here's the 2 to 3 you care about on the class you're playing. Try to get those to 100 and try to get the other ones as high as possible. And the point Bungie keeps making is that's not how the world's going to be come July. You're not going to be able to just say, well, let me just max out everything, or max out everything that matters, and then I can basically use my abilities, generating orbs and whatever, to get my super up, to get everything else up. It is going to be decisions, which I feel like they've said every time, but this really feels like a change that's going to necessitate some actual decision making, some actual building, not just give me every single ability and every single thing I can do all at once. I would like everything.
Which is what it kind of is, now. I mean, if you can get 3, even up to, sometimes people can get up to 4 stats at 100. I don't know how they do it. I mean, just, it's crazy. But to get like 3 is quite hard for me. I main a Titan, but I think my Titan can only go up to like 2.9. I can't get it up to the 3. I just can't get the armor to drop. But my Warlock, and the way it kind of specs out in Prismatic at the moment, because I know they're being knocked down slightly, I can get 3 stats in over 100, which is quite nice, and then a good distribution in the other. But yeah, it's at least that won't be the case going forward. You spec into, or you build into whatever kind of build you want, and then I think with things like that, when we kind of get the things like in Trials, or we get the Grandmasters, or we get the raids, or whatever, the dungeons that say not swap, or if you swap your armor out, you're going to be affected by X, Y, and Z. I think, like we've seen with the Rite of the Nine, with some of the modifiers in there. I think that's where the build crafting then comes in. It's like, well, I'm going to go in as this, and if I do swap to something else, it is then going to have an effect on the actual game as well. So that's quite interesting. We have a list of melee changes and exotic armor pieces and weapon perks that can shine in the new system. But this does not cover all the sandbox tuning that they have planned for the Edge of Fate. So there will be another future TWID that goes over that. But for all classes, Prismatic, the Facet of Courage, PvE melee damage bonus increase from 10 to 50. Arc, Spark of Feedback, PvE melee damage bonus increase from 75 to 100, and now works with Glaive melees at full effect. And PvE melee damage bonus is no longer decreased when using Syntheseps, Liar's Handshake, Knockout, Wormgod's Caress, 1-2 Punch, or Winter's Guile. For the Titans, Roaring Flames, a maximum PvE melee damage bonus increase from 73 to 200%. As a note, Roaring Flame increased solo ability damage, and Glaive melee is always kinetic. They've opted to follow the rules as written for this one, so Roaring Flames does not scale Glaive melee damage. And melee damage bonus is no longer decreased when using Peregrine Greaves, Wormgod's Caress, 1-2 Punch, or Syntheseps. Knockout, PvE unchanged melee damage bonus increase from 100 to 160. PvE uncharged melee damage bonus increased from 100 to 160. The charged melee damage bonus increased from 50 to 160. Increased melee damage now works with Glaives melee at full effects. Offensive Bulwark, PvE melee damage bonus increased from 100 to 160. Increased melee damage now works with Glaives at full effect, and melee damage bonus no longer decreases when using Syntheseps. Banner of War, melee damage bonus for users and allies increased from 40 to 100, and is no longer decreased when using Wormgod's Caress, Syntheseps, or Glaive melee. The damage bonus provided by Blade Fury melee attack is unchanged. Hunters, Stylish Executioner, the PvE melee damage bonus increased from 200 to 300, now works with Glaives at full effect. Now works with every melee ability if the ability makes contact while you are leaving invisibility. In other words, projectile melee abilities like Threaded Spike will benefit from the damage increase if you're using it at point blank. Combination Blows, maximum PvE damage bonus increase from 309 to 400. Increased melee damage now works with Glaive melee at full effect. Now works with Tempest Strike in PvE at full effect. What's that mean? This line incorrectly mentions Ascension. No idea what that means.
Was there I know they had mentioned. Okay, it did say, they tweeted out, we have updated the TWID section about Combination Blow changes of effects coming in Edge of Fate. Combination Blow will work with Tempest Strike at full PvE effect, not with Ascension. So I think in an earlier version it said they would work with Ascension and not Tempest Strike.
Okay. Now works with Grapple Melee in PvE at full effect. So Titans and Hunters got a lot of changes, but nothing really major there for the Warlocks apart from the Prismatic and the Arc. Okay. So moving on to exotic armor changes. Hunters, Athris Embrace, the PvE weighted throwing knife damage bonus increased from 200 to 300. Liar's Handshake and Spirit of Liar, PvE base melee and arc melee damage increased from 200 to 400. Ophidius Spaith, maximum PvE throwing knife damage bonus increased from 100 to 200. And Triton Vice, which is the ones with the Glaives, PvE Glaive melee damage bonus increased from 100 to 200. That's quite nice for the Hunters there. Titans, Heart of Innermost Light, maximum PvE melee damage bonus increased from 20 to 50. Now increases the damage of unpowered Glaive melee abilities. With that, they haven't mentioned the Heart of Innermost Light, the perk that you can get on your class item. So is that different now? Or are they still tied to... I can't remember what it's actually called on the class item. Is it the...
I think it's just the Spirit of Inmost Light.
Yeah, Spirit of Inmost Light.
It's but I don't know if they're
they haven't mentioned it.
Because normally they call it out when there's some difference coming to it, but
yeah. So maybe the class item isn't affected, or maybe it is. Maybe they'll kind of at some point go, oh yeah, by the way, we forgot to write that bit. Peregrine Greaves, shoulder charge ability impact damage bonus against non-champions, non-tormentors, and non-mini-boss targets increased from 363 to 400. Syntheseps and Spirit of the Syntheseps, melee damage bonus is unchanged, 165. Melee damage bonus is no longer decreased when using the combination blow Stylus Executioner and Glaive melee. Damage bonus is decreased against players when using Lightning Surge. Wishful Ignorance, maximum PvE Frenzy Blade melee damage bonus increased from 100 to 200. And maximum PvE Flechette Storm melee damage bonus increased from 50 to 200. And then Worm God's Caress, maximum PvE melee damage bonus increased from 275 to 400. And melee damage bonus is no longer decreased when using Roaring Flames or Glaive melee. Warlocks, there's a long list here.
Mentioned.
Sit down. Winter's Guile, maximum PvE melee damage bonus increased from 275 to 400.
Right.
There you go.
Yes.
That's what you get.
So numbers going up. So
Yes.
You're no longer can you put 16 buffs on top of each other to get 6,000% extra damage, but we're gonna double the effectiveness of a lot of these things. So you will still be able to punch things, just not punch things into oblivion.
Well, yet anyway.
Yeah. I mean, not yet until you find the exact right combination. Now, I know we've talked about punching things. You'll also be able to shoot things in this game. I hear this game will also have weapons.
Yeah,
So
but the
we
weapons
have some
have
weapon
other
perks.
things with melee on them, don't they?
I mean, quite possibly.
Don't use your weapon. Use the end of your weapon to hit somebody. That's what I hear. I've got many of those weapons.
Yeah. Well, I mean, good thing because we've got some weapon perks. Like if you're close to a melee, maybe you're not quite there, but you're close to it. So your PvE Glaive melee damage bonus increased from 30 to 60%. Your 1-2 punch, which if you're 1-2 punching, you're close enough to melee as well. PvE damage melee bonus increased from 100 to 150%. Now works with all melee abilities. Melee bonus damage is no longer decreased when used with Liar's Handshake, and they increase the time that the perk is active to 3 seconds. So, go forth and punch things. For exotic weapons, I thought there was more for some reason. We have other perks. Maybe we'll talk about those later when they're not related to punching things. Exotic weapons, possibly related to punching things. Bastion. Saint's Fist's PvE melee damage bonus increased 100% to 300%. Now works with all melee abilities. Increase the time of the perk is active to, you guess it, 3 seconds. Monte Carlo, which got its beautiful Chain Ripper ornament for Bright Dust in the shop. Catalyst melee attack no longer deals reduced melee damage to bosses, mini-bosses, and champions. So look good and hit harder. Winter Bite now receives the melee damage bonuses from a variety of sources. Reduce the enhanced melee damage with ammo up to plus 20% versus bosses, down from plus 50%. That's 5-0. And that's it. Those are all the things we're touching around, shooting and punching. But we do have an exotic armor tuning preview. Because why would we not? They have many buffs and reworks here. And they do, there are many. So for the Hunter, we have the Dragon Shadow and... it's been really similar to the Speedloader Slacks for a while. Which I swear to you, when I first saw people mentioning the Speedloader Slacks, I thought they were just talking about the Lucky Pants in a cheeky way. But no, Those are different. They are two different things. But both of them are centered on dodging to get stats. So they're going to alleviate some of this weirdness by making some changes. So the Dragon Shadow now passively increases weapon stability and ready speed. Dodging reloads your equipped weapon. No longer reload your holstered weapons. Activating your dodge ability grants the following effects for a short time. Increased stability and handling, increased move speed, increased sprint, slide, and ADS strafe speeds, and increases class stat. All the things with the Dragon Shadow. And now with the Speedloader Slacks, they're going to adjust the Tight Fit perk, so dodging reloads all of your weapons and grants increased handling and reload speed for you and nearby allies. While this buff is active, additional dodges increase the strength of the buff and refreshes the timer. Dealing sustained damage grants class ability energy.
So it's a little bit of a rework there.
Yeah, a little bit of rework, a little bit of differentiation. Mask of Bacchus. The effects are now active with either Arc or Stasis supers equipped, and they've reworked the Light Shift. No longer provides a non-stacking surge damage bonus, now grants plus 10% damage for eligible weapons, which are Stasis weapons, Arc weapons, or Lord of Wolves per stack. Stack can stack up to 3 times, and while active, the weapon final blows grants class ability energy. Lots of good things give you the class ability energy stat now. Khepri Sting. It's been fairly niche PvP for a while, so they wanted to rework it. So they've removed the automatic smoke bomb activation when using the melee attack. They've removed True Sight when dealing damage with smoke bomb. And they've added killing weakened targets creates a burst of weakening smoke and returns the smoke bomb energy. So Khepri Sting, all about smoke bombs. Oath Keepers, mentioned earlier, increased the maximum damage bonus from 150% to 200%, and now provides more of a total damage bonus earlier in the overdraw. Your Blight Ranger, they fixed an issue where the cancellation damage was not consistently scaling based on the voltaic mirror progress, so they've adjusted the voltaic mirror behavior. Now it requires 25% less reflection to reach maximum, it fills more evenly, and they block the melee attacks now count as a reflection. The maximum cancellation damage is increased by 50%. This is in addition to the fixes I just mentioned above. And your minimum cancellation damage is increased by 150%. Now always applies blind before dealing damage, and they've updated the visuals, audio, and timing on the blinding shockwave to better reflect its impact. So now you'll know it, see it, and hear it better. For the Titans, we have Crest of Alpha Lupi, which is a thing that exists. They've added some additional effects to it, so sustained damage while behind a barricade triggers another smaller healing pulse, and healing your allies grants barricade energy. I like that. I like a perk that, gives a nice reciprocal function. Your Phoenix Cradle, they've updated the VFX on the sunspots while the user has a Phoenix Cradle to look more clearly supportive to allies. Come into the flames. They're healing, cleansing flames. Walk into the night demon, it'll be fine. They've also added the dealing sustained solar damage in a sunspot extends its duration and provides solar buffs to allies and has a chance to create a sunspot at your feet.
That's nice. I like the idea of the Crest of Alpha Lupi change because with the arc support kind of build that we've all kind of been doing this past episode by putting the arc barricade down and then shooting behind it and getting the arc lightning thing. If you've got the Crest of Alpha Lupi and you've got several of you there kind of being shot at and you are slowly healing people, and then the damage of the barricade then triggers more healing pulses that will heal people as well as kind of regenerate your barricade a lot quicker. So I could foresee that would be a really good one to kind of pair with your arc. So actually bringing it out of kind of storage and using it now.
Yeah, I could see, again, when we were running some of those GMs, I think I had gone to Heart of Inmost Light just to try to get that barricade back quicker and sort of start that proc to throw the barricade down, give us the overshield, and keep that loop going. I like that I can throw the barricade down, and just get those healing pulses and energy back to throw the barricade down, to get the healing pulses, to get the energy back.
Yeah.
I'm a simple man. I like loops I can understand and just sort of play through and have a good time with. And Phoenix Cradle, it'd be nice. Solar, again, seems like one of the big sort of focuses of Edge of Fate, so changing solar things to make those boots that I forget exist viable might be fun. The MK44 stand-asides. Sprinting with Juggernaut active periodically grants you a stack of static charge. Sprinting while amplified creates an area behind you that grants allies speed boost. Interesting. Not sure how exactly that's going to help us anywhere, but it's a thing. Those exist, and you can do that now. Your Path of the Burning Steps. They've increased the solar weapon damage and solar ignition damage based on the number of stacks of Roaring Flames you have. So Roaring Flames, 1, 2, and 3 grants a 10, 15, and 20% bonus solar weapon damage, and 5, 10, and 15% bonus ignition damage. And it does stack with Surge mods. They've reduced the duration of Suspend, Slow, and Freeze effects applied to you, as you would think for wearing boots, that's their entire purpose. The Abeyant Leaps, they now increase the duration of Suspend applied by the Dringer's Lash. So that's handy, because again, that's their whole purpose in life. The Actium War Rig, what are they doing to my War Pig? Auto Rifle or Machine Gun Final Blows increase the stability, ammo generation, and damage. Stacks up to 10 times. Higher stack counts expire more quickly. So more stability, ammo generation, and damage. Is the sweet business meta? No, but it could be. there's a
Yeah,
chance.
that's what I was thinking. That I was thinking, that's going to be nasty, especially with what we were talking about with some of those armor pieces the other week about building into just this with the Axiom War rig and the Sweet Business. It was like that could be a really nasty build, and especially with these changes now. Very interesting.
Yeah, I have hopes of one day it being truly viable for things. And I don't realistically think it'll ever be there, but there's a chance. But I mean, I also have a number of Watchful Eye machine guns that they've been handing out. Hammerheads I've got sitting in the vault. I mean, lots of good machine guns that shouldn't be slept on with this either, because it's so fun with auto rifles. But yeah, you've got the machine guns. Does the same thing. Do more damage, get your killing tally going.
Yeah.
And just get that damage going, get your rolling storm active, and yeah, rain down lightning and death. Could be good times. And then Spirit of Alpha Lupi. So they do mention Spirit of Alpha Lupi specifically. They're adding healing to your allies, grants class ability. So no healing pulse on the Alpha Lupi piece of this. And Warlocks, also mentioned. No, they actually talk about the Warlocks more than one line this time. So your Starfire Protocol, the empowering damage they felt pretty confusing. So they figured it was time to clear up that confusion and give it a well-deserved boost. So your Starfire Protocol now also activates on radiant damage, increased the fusion grenade energy gain from dealing damage from 2.5% to 5%, and reduced the reduced grenade energy gain from final blows from 20% to 15%. Is that less confusing? Don't know, but it's different. Wings of Sacred Dawn. With the release of, the Manticore SMG where you could fly around, why would you use Wings of Sacred Dawn? Well, combatants are less accurate toward you while the Tome of Dawn is active. This is similar to the Manticore's effect. And while your Solar Super is equipped, Solar Weapon Final Blows grant restoration and reload to your stowed weapons. Fellwinter's Helm. They've added the Powered Melee Damage Weakened Targets, which applies a 15% weaken, and weaken effect applies via burst, via melee, or finisher final blows are unchanged. Some more weakening when you're Fellwintering. Your Promethean Spurs. And where with so many rifts, it's been hard to make a combo rift feel good or useful. So they're going to make some changes. They've reworked the perk Embers of Light. So while a Solar Super is equipped, weapon defeats grant class ability energy, and weapon defeats in rift grant different solar verb depending on the rift. So while you're in your healing rift, weapon defeats grant a pulse that grants radiant to you and nearby allies, while in an empowering rift, weapon defeats instead grant cure to you and your nearby allies.
Okay, so while you're in the healing rift, you get extra damage if you've got the radiant perk that gives you extra damage, while you're in empowering rift, which gives you extra damage, and you get weapon defeats that cures you. Okay, so that's a really good combination there. So you can do both things at the same time if you're getting the kills.
Yeah, as long as you're getting those kills, and you can make some decisions on do I want to build into Radiant while I'm Radiant? Can I then do other things? Yeah, I like that. Little column A, little column B. Boot to the Assembler. So currently your speaker site largely outclasses the Boot to the Assembler to the point as it's potent in healing allies, producing orbs of power, empowering your build, and doesn't require you to stand in a rift to get the benefits. Plus, the Boots of the Assembler's Noble Seekers are just, the guys, they're not that smart. So we sent them to the Space College. So they're now going to target allies more reliably, spreading their healing out more effectively, and giving you a more flexible benefit when they find an ally. All right, Boots. Noble, we've sent your Seekers to the Space College. So Noble Seekers no longer spawn in waves and instead spawn at a consistent rate based on fireteam size. Average number of Noble Seekers produced in 8 seconds is unchanged. It'll produce 1 per ally in that time period. So your Noble Seeker tracking range changed to 40 meters, always, up from 20 to 40, depending on how long it had been alive. So it'll now prioritize allies who have not been healed in the last 8 seconds. It can now target allies standing in the rift producing them. The Noble Seekers will now target an ally more than once. Will not target an ally more than once every 4 seconds. Noble Seekers will not detonate when passing near an ally they are not targeting. They will still detonate if they make contact with the ally. So if you jump in front of the Noble Seeker, it's still going to hit you, but it will do its best to go around you and find the person it's trying to help out. And it will no longer grant extended rift duration on Noble Seeker impact with allies. Instead, it's going to grant the class ability energy on the Noble Seeker impact with allies. Again, scales based on your fire team size. So those all seem like good changes. Can't say I know that I've been around the Noble Seekers, but I'm sure I've benefited from them. Blue or someone running them and going, here, help. These are better now. Geomax stabilizers. Who doesn't love shooting beams of consecrated energy running around as you're generating them? With the launch of Edge of Fate, we're limiting some of the unlimited power. Boo. So they're going to take a pass at retuning these and the sprinting for bolt charges. So your Geomax stabilizers, they've reduced the super energy granted by Ionic Trace to 4%, down from 7%. They retuned sprinting to top out the bolt charge. So decrease the bolt charge stacks required before sprinting will grant additional stacks from 6 to 5. And they've decreased the amount of time required to start granting bolt charge from 2 seconds to 1. And they've increased the rate of bolt charge granted while this effect is active for every 1.5 seconds to every 0.33 seconds. So yeah, bolt charges and murder. And we have rewards.
We do.
Who doesn't love rewards? It's that reward that I don't want to see or think about ever again.
If you've done stuff in the last year, so anything from the final shape is going away. So if you've done anything from Episode Echoes, Revenant or Heresy, and you've unlocked your badges and your seals and your pins and things like that, you've seen those flash up and you've gone, I'll get to that later. This is later. This is now. So as we approach the launch of The Edge of Fate, many of the Bungie rewards available that require trance to unlock during this year won't be available anymore. So this is your call to take this opportunity to not only earn them like I'm trying to do, also complete your journey by checking out some of their greatest hits from below. So you can still earn the pin badge for the Choir of One. You've got the 10th anniversary seal pin. You've got the raid, which I can't remember the raid off the top of my head, but there was a raid this past year, the one with the witness in it, that one. You can also get it wasn't a hoodie, but it was a jacket, the bracelet from Revenant, also the pin from the Slayer's Fang, the exotic, and the Barrow Dyad as well, and another jacket and a black jumper, and some more pins and some rings, and another bracelet. So yeah, you can still earn those and still go to the Bungie reward page if you've already earned them in game and purchase them.
Yeah,
the stuff.
Yeah.
The metal posters as well. They did the metal posters, didn't they? The disc plates as well. They're also available.
Yeah. Just at this point, go to bungiestore.com, log in with your account. It'll tell you, hey, you've earned this, you haven't earned this, and when you have to purchase these by. So yeah, it looks like August 19th, 2025 for some of these things. Maybe it looks like all these. I don't know. Yeah, go to the Bungie store. It'll tell you, the date you have to earn these by, which a lot of these is by July 15th when Edge of Fate launches. And then once you've earned it, you have, it looks like, until about, August 19th. So about, a little over a month to actually make your purchase once you've earned it. So go earn it. Go purchase things. Or don't. Buy what you like. Buy what looks good. Yeah. I'm not sure why we're selling people. Well, I guess we're selling people long sleeve things in cold climates warm climates because some of you are in colder climates or you need a jacket come winter.
It's definitely hot. Yeah.
It's also definitely hot. A hot new list of known issues.
No, that's not yet.
Well, that would be nice to have. That would be a nice thing to have right now. But we don't. We have an ice cold, delicious cold beverage of known issues that you all already know. So, hey, your Ascension aspect still broken with certain armor mods and exotic armors. It's uninterested. Your Rhymecoat Raymond's exotic chest piece crystals, they don't reliably grant Devour when Feed the Void's equipped. Your enhanced recycled energy perks, so enhanced, gives you no energy back. Your champion title has lost its gilded status. Don't know where it is. Maybe it'll come back, maybe it won't. When speaking to a vendor, you still get that overlapping dialogue. Drowning Labyrinth quest, we're just... Listen, by this point...
We've drowned.
It's drowned. We're trying to find the body. We can't. It's just... no. Still broken, been broken, gonna remain broken. If you're taking the Taken Relic in the Derealize Exotic Mission, it can fall below the surface of the risk encounter. The Shrieker bosses in Sunder Doctrine, still showing you critical feedback damage, you're still getting regular base damage. Ikora, she has a Drowning Labyrinth quest. We've taken her off the page of Bungie.net. I mean, it's all just drowned at this point. Just don't worry about those steps. Tomb of Want a Primer quest sometimes doesn't like step 3 and 4. It just doesn't want to progress. It's good where it is. You can still preview your memento shaders on armor. Still no plans to bring them to armor. And Seek into Experiment of the Filaments cannot grant Devour while the Facet of Protection is equipped. So yeah, copy and paste. There you go. That's what's broken. I do look forward to 3 weeks from now when we have a whole new list of broken things to talk about. But until now, we have Art of the Week, which is Vex.
I do like that.
I really like this Vex, infinite Vex design. That's nice.
It reminds me of the Leonardo DiCaprio film, Gatsby. Is it The Great Gatsby? It's that kind of 1920s feel to it. It's definitely got that kind of gold vibe to it. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, I like that very much. I like the repeating pattern. I like to think this is Saint 14's wall in his house. He just has a wall of Vex heads he's just collected and has up there. And then we have Movie of the Week of people doing things in PvP that, one of us may have been the victim of. But that's it. We've got the TWID. It's over. Pretty sure you already have started theorizing about new builds and combos that'll be most fun to play, and let them know what you've got and what you're excited about. And there's a little kitty cat hidden at the end. I know they mentioned the Ascension and Combination Blow thing. I know in Fallout's video, Bruno, one of the community managers, mentioned the glaive melee is kinetic and Roaring Flames is solar. So Roaring Flames will buff your solar ability damage, but not your glaive because that's a melee thing. But I think you mentioned that, and I know that was called out. Yeah. And apparently the Moment of Triumph 2024 title has also disappeared. And they're investigating that issue that they tweeted about earlier this week. So I'm not sure what sort of serial killer is taking these titles and their gildings away. But just be on the lookout. Someone may be coming for your title. And they're trying to steal it and maybe drown it with the Labyrinth quest.
Hi all, and welcome to our little piece of Two Titans and a Hunter. This section we're calling Bite-Sized Lore, where we'll be covering weapons and armor lore tabs. I will be doing the reading today. I'm not Arth, and being quiet and asking questions and generally just being confused but happy to be here, we have Noble.
Hi, I'm Noble.
Right, the bite-sized lore we are covering today is one of Demon's favourites, or, well, is it still his favourite? Or one of his favourites?
He enjoys it.
Tiku's Divination. Now, this was brought in Season of the Chosen back in, I think it was October 21? Quite a few years ago now.
God, yeah, it was quite a while ago. It's been there now.
Now, the flavour text is 3 points pushed through forever. And here is your bite-sized lore. The two legionaries rooted through the armoury of their deposed emperor. They swept the rubble aside and lifted a bow of sharp metal, its thin frame of blackened blades bound with wire. This is the one the Scions made so you can't miss. Huh? How'd they do it? They put time in it. What kind of time? Kind, so when you shoot, that's always when the arrows hit. You never miss? Not unless you are going to hit anyway. But if you do miss, it'll make it a time that you don't. Right, unless this time was a time when you did. It was the third day of the dry joining. Tiku's voice was rasped raw, but still he clutched the bow to his chest and held it in his placid mind. Tiku melded his thoughts with the null, a bastardized meta-concert, one voice in the expanse, a temporal harmony of one. 3 hours hissing faintly with solar power, bristled in his fist. Then, an echo, a rusty whine of horsehair on frayed wire. Tiku plucked the bowstring. Spots of blood appeared on the floor. He plucked again, filling the air with oppressive vibrations. Blood welled from his fingers and dropped to match the pattern at his feet. How's it make arrows? They come from time because they got put there before. When you shoot it, how does it know what heads to hit? It goes in time and gets a future where heads always had arrows in them. But which heads, though? The ones that had arrows in already. Tiku's mind emptied itself, dissipating across the pitch and froth of what was to be. Time was an empty wheel around him. His song held it, and the joining pinned it in place. 3 points of harmony between the will and the physical. His fist rose, 3 shafts pierced his Y-shaped pupil. They had always been there. 3 points pushed through forever. Now, that for me was actually quite hard to keep track of, because you've got the part where the Scion's actually making the bow and firing it.
Yeah.
And then you've got the two, to be honest, 2 legionary grunts going, "Brrr."
Yeah, you've
What's
got
that then?
You've got 2 Titans having a conversation about, well, how's it work? I don't know, just shoot it. Then you've got the intellectual warlock.
It's Peroty trying to explain it to Night Demon.
I tell you what it is to me. It is. Did you ever watch The Big Bang Theory?
No.
Right. There's a scene in The Big Bang Theory, and basically this entire 5-minute sketch is about time travel.
Oh, is that the one about string theory?
Yes.
Where Penny cracks it in about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
is it
pretty
Penny?
much.
The blonde? I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, and the entire all I could hear when they were trying to explain it to each other, and he's like, "Look, it's really simple. It's like this," and the other one's just like, "No, I don't get it. I still don't get it. Even if you tell me that how it works, I still don't get it." It's so
why?
Yeah, but why? Because that's how it is.
You can't explain it. It just is.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like trying to explain to a flat earther that the world's round. Like, but why is it? Because it is. But why? Because that's how it works.
Oh dear. But yes, that's our bite-sized lore for this week. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Na'af, and he is
Noble.
That's the one. Bye-bye.
One more week where we get to live in terror of the gigantic TWAB that they're going to drop on us.
Yes.
Wasn't this week yet?
No. I'm not sure if it will be next week, because we'll have a lot of stuff to kind of go through from. I say we have a lot of stuff. We can dive and delve through the developer live stream. So don't forget, June 24th, 10 a.m. PT. So there should be some good information in that. Maybe there'll be some more kind of videos that come out from the streamers. And yeah,
some more changes that can maybe give us some more math and numbers and just tell us about how things are going to change. Are you Titans out there going, my mobility stat is going to turn into weapons, and guess what? I have absolutely nothing in my vault with a high mobility stat, so do I want to get some high mobility armor to turn into a high weapon stat Edge of Fate? Or do I just say, I'm going to wait for the new drops to come, it'll all work out?
it would definitely will work out. Definitely will.
Oh yeah. Decisions. Well, I know when we mentioned at the top of the show, we don't have a ton of videos this week. Have you watched anything that would give the people some insight or some knowledge or even just a laugh?
No, not really. To be honest, no, not this week. I was going to watch the My Thoughts on Bungie Going Forward by Astagos, but I didn't get round to it. So, but apart from that, it wasn't a very heavy week for Destiny stuff. It's, people have been playing other things or kind of going over the TWAB that we.
Yeah.
Dato's been doing some vault cleaning for people.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's a lot of vault cleaning. There's a lot of people just talking about sort of meta conversations around the game, but not the game itself. The only two things I'll throw in is I did see. I'm going to say Alt Face, but it's Alt-F4CE has a new vault cleaning tool that he's built. That sort of just gives you a sort of like a sort of a simpler of if you're looking at some of these tools and going, this is just way too many, there's way too many options and toggles and buttons, and this is just completely overwhelming to me. He's built a tool that's at Destiny #2 ools.cloud. So it's Destiny 2 ools.cloud, which we'll put in the show notes because that's a very hard URL to read out over the show. But Destiny #2 ools.cloud. And he has a Vault Analyzer. So basically, you give it your Bungie and you connect with your Bungie.net account just like you do to DIM or anything else. So don't think it's some guy trying to steal your, Bungie credentials. It uses the same mechanism that everything else uses to connect to Bungie to get your vault and your items. And you can basically connect that up. You can look at your vault, look at your roles. You can sort of say, hey, look at my exotics, ignore my exotics. You can even say, hey, if I have things locked, ignore the things I have locked. Just look at my unlocked guns. And then you can do it by character or by weapon type or slot, and it'll sort of call out, hey, here's a role you have of a weapon that is inferior to another role of this weapon. And there's also a massive list, and I mean a massive list, of all of the weapon perks. So if you're saying, I know all these tools always want to delete my favorite weapon with my kinetic tremors on it. Let me sort of lock that down and say, no, keep my kinetic tremor rolls, but then look at everything else. Or, keep my, if you've got your favorite roll, you've got your favorite mulligan roll you want to hang on to, or I'm pulling things out of the air. Hey, anything with 1-2 punch, don't touch those. I want to keep those. You can sort of whitelist those to say, keep those. Those are my favorite weapon perks. So anything with those, keep them. But look at everything else. So you can really sort of say, let me look at these. Let me compare these together. You could even look at a PvE or PvP focus or both and just sort of, break that down and say, what do you sort of recommend I get rid of based on this? It's not quite as, fine-tuned as some of the other things. I think he just built this like this week or recently. But it is a nice way to sort of look and sort of tag things for, hey, this is a worse version of the same gun that I already have. Let me look at it. And again, it doesn't delete anything because, none of these apps will delete them for you. You still have to bring them in game to delete them. But just another way to sort of take a look at your vault and make some decisions around, do I need to keep all these? Because, even if you aren't doing a proper cleaning before Edge of Fate, please, everyone, make sure you've got some room in your vault for the new things you're going to get. I mean, you're going to get things doing the campaign. You're going to have quests to pick up. There will be things you'll need to account for. So, I mean, even if you're not saying, sitting at 321 of 700 and have oodles of room because you just said, I don't care about you, I'm deleting all these things. Make sure you have at least a handful of slots. Give yourself 10 or 15 slots just to be able to account for the new things. Look at the exotics you have that you can pull back out from collections and just, empty those slots. Give yourself the room. And because we struggle with numbers and maths, Engineer has put out a video and a spreadsheet about just sort of breaking down the melee damage. So if you heard our explanation and said, I don't know what any of this means.
I still don't know what they're talking about. You're
all speaking rubbish. He has a video and is also linked to, a post on YouTube, which we'll put a link to in the show notes, or just go follow Engineer, which is Engineer with a whole bunch of E's in it. He has a whole spreadsheet that he's sort of broken down of, the old value, the new value for all of the, for all your aspects, all your exotics, all these changes we talked about. So you can see them all side by side and say, okay, here's what I care about. Does this number go up? Does the number go down? So he's got those for you. He does a much better job explaining all the numbers. I'm basically getting flashbacks to the, shotgun barrel length scalar numbers. I'm going, okay, some punch hit harder, some punch hit less hard. We'll figure it out come Edge of Fate, which is which. Yeah, let the Engineer tell you about it, because I can't. I don't do math. I do punching. And I think that's all we do, other than thank our lovely patrons.
Yep.
So, you can't threaten with a good time? Zep Orbit and Renar Kalant. Can't be done. Our grenade throwers are Golden God 1562, Noble, Firestorm 1688, the main Conan from Texas and Farrell, and Gravy Jeff, down there into the Day 1 raid team, working on his absolutely phenomenal Edge of Fate build. We thank you each and every one of our lovely patrons who, like to count with us every week and say, you do good things even if you can't explain math and how numbers work. But maybe next week we'll have something else to explain that we do understand. So you'll have to find out. So thank you for joining us, your Titans and Peroty and Night Demon. Your lore knuckleheads are Nadarf and Noble. Tune in, figure out what did they talk about this week. You can find this show wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us, just search Two Titans and a Hunter everywhere on the internet. If you haven't found us by now, welcome. We're happy to have you here. If you've got thoughts, email the show, twotitansandahunter@hotmail.com. Scream about how we can't pronounce things. As we're struggling to come up with a word, you're screaming it into your car stereo as you're driving down. Let us know. Just subscribe here on YouTube. Every new episode, 801 update, Eververse video. All the goods are there. All the show notes, all the things we talk about, twotitansandahunter.com. That's where all that lives. And if you want to join the Auto Dance Troop, throw in a good time, throw more grenades, or become that pristine Day 1 raid team, join the Patreon, patreon.com/TTAH. Looking for more casual encounter, coffee.com/twotitansandahunter. And twitch.tv/ you guessed it, Two Titans and a Hunter. Sometimes we stream. When things happen, you should find out. I think there might be a charity event coming up here in July that we may be hanging out with Noble and folks with like we did last year. So, you should go there, hit the button, and we'll have more information about all the things we're up to in the future. Until next week, Demon, tell the people goodbye.
Goodbye.
Two Titans and a Hunter, a Destiny 2 podcast.